Rabbi Eytan Hammerman from the Jewish Community Center of Harrison, New York. In this parsha, we learn a lesson of doing as many mitzvot as possible ourselves and spreading them out throughout our lives. A Hasidic rabbi once told a person that it's appropriate to take a job as a bank teller so the person would become more accustomed to handing out money to others. In this way, he'd also become more likely to give tzedakah. The more mitzvot we do ourselves, the more we're conditioning ourselves to do good. It becomes a habit, the backdrop of our lives. In our portion, Va-Yera, Abraham understands that he has to fulfill the commandment from God himself to offer up his son Isaac for a sacrifice. Of course, we learn later that Isaac is spared. However, Abraham prepares himself to do the commandment from God. Vayachavosh et chamoro, he himself saddles his donkey. Vayivaka et se'olah, he himself chops the wood, and he journeys to the place that God shows him. Abraham understands that taking the mitzvah into his hands is the way to achieve a greater connection to holiness, taking the actions ourselves. The more we perform the physical actions in service of godliness, the closer we feel to holiness. And there's so many examples of this in Judaism. At a funeral, we fill up the grave with earth rather than allowing the cemetery workers to perform the task. We should bake the Humintashen on Purim rather than buying them. And there's even a piece of holiness in schlepping up the Pesach dishes and putting away the pieces of the sukkah. When we put some sweat equity into the mitzvot, we feel a greater connection ourselves to the mitzvah, to God, to Judaism, to using our commandments to better the world. So especially in these days, when we may have more time at home than we normally would, we can fill that time by finding ways to take more Jewish actions, to make them your own. Perhaps learn to make candles and then use them to begin and end Shabbat. Bake challah yourself. Find a creative way to build a new menorah this year, maybe a large one outdoors that you can enjoy with friends. Whatever it may be, I hope that you take your Judaism into your own hands, just as Abraham does in Va-Yera in this week's Torah portion. Shabbat Shalom.